A very warm welcome to another episode of The Unscripted by NKL. In our previous episode, I gave you a story about how much my grandmother hates the son who is my father. And in today's episode, I'm going to give you another story of how she celebrated the death of her son. Yes, you got it right. That my grandmother celebrated that my father was dead. What had happened? Now, one morning, my mother tells me that my father left home left home to go to, he drinks alcohol, so the friends came and took him away to go have their one for the road. And while there, they had gone to another village. While there, one of the friends that had picked him up got into a fight with the boys, one of the boys from the other village. And so the boys from that village decided to gang up and help their friend against this friend of my father. And really, I don't know how my father got into it and the friends, but I'm told that now it was a war between those guys and my father's clique. So I'm told the rest were able to escape, and my father was so unlucky that they caught him, and then they decided to work on him by cutting him literally with pankers, to the point they felt like, we are now done with him, we've killed him. And they left him lying by the roadside. So I'm told every person that was passing by him knew that this is a dead person. And where I come from, if you encounter a dead person on the way and you do not know them, it is believed that you have to pick a leaf rather, and throw onto them and tell the person that I do not know you, so please do not haunt me, as well as spitting. My father says that all this happened to him at that point. People believed he was dead because he was covered in a mass of, or a flood of blood. You could not recognize him, as it were. So he says, of the people that came, there was one mzee, one old man who came, and he had a closer look at this person lying on the road. And he said that, I think this is so-and-so's son. And really, he was right. So my father says he could pick the voices from afar, and he was able to pick this particular voice of the mzee and place it or recognize it. So what he did, from again, he says, with a faint voice, he was able to call the name of that old man. And the old man was now sure that indeed it was the son of so-and-so. So he organizes, and my father is taken to our nearest hospital called Muhila. It is a missionary hospital. And from there, he decides to come and tell my grandmother that your son has thoroughly been injured by unknown people. He is at the verge of dying. So I've organized, he's been taken to Muhila Hospital. And whatever came from my grandmother's mouth to this date, that Muse has never believed it. He says, this is what the mother of my father said to him. She first of all laughed. I told you she has this devilish laughter. And then she said, the God I pray, she loves that slogan, the God I pray has eventually answered my prayers. Anyway, at this point, no news has reached my mother. But then, within no time, she says she hears screams coming from my grandmother's place. And at that point, my grandfather was sick and he was actually on his deathbed. And, you know, my mother said he was with a friend in the house having the womanly chit-chat. And she says when she heard the screams, she thought the worst, that grandfather had decided to leave. And, you know, she stood up. When you are in our house, you can see, though it is meters away, like 800 meters away or so, 800, 600 meters away or so, but you can see what is happening on the road. I told you my grandmother's homestead borders the road. So you can see people, you can see activities happening there, even though you cannot identify who it is, but at least you can see movements and all that. So yeah, she peeps through the window and she sees people running and screaming confusedly. Then I told you she thinks the worst. But then in that moment, she sees my auntie, little auntie, our father's last born, coming towards our direction or towards our home. And she's held her hands on her head and she's screaming that Ibrahim is dead. Ibrahim is my father. I remember as this is happening, my mother is also nursing them. She was nursing my follower, my sister Mercy. And this girl had been sickly since childhood. So really, you know, she had to leave the baby in that state and go get to know what is really happening, because if you are saying that Ibrahim is dead, my Ibrahim left this house or this home this morning very sound, healthy and sound. So what is it that has happened in between? Now, she confirms indeed it is true, something is wrong somewhere, and she's told that he's been taken to Mohila Hospital. And my mother says that is how she ran from home to Mohila Hospital. By the way, it is not that far, it's like 2 kilometers away from home. So she literally ran the 2 kilometers to the hospital. And indeed, she confirmed that that was the husband. And she says she looked at the husband and she counted herself a widow, because as much as he was still breathing, she could not see him making through it. He had lost a lot of blood. Yeah, my mother says he could not be recognized if it were not for the clothes he had put on. She had given him in the morning to put on. So she was like, yeah, this is my man. This is how he left dressed. So you can imagine the situation. Very pathetic, very discouraging. Now, in that span, the doctors say, and even before getting to the doctors, When the word got to my father's siblings that their father, their son, their brother had been attacked and is fighting for his life, I'm told for those who got there, for the siblings that got there, they declined. They denied that was their brother because they could not recognize him. They were like, everyone was like, no, this is not our brother. This is not our friend brother. Because really he didn't look like, the one they know. So yeah, my mother confirms he's the one from the way he had dressed before leaving. And the doctors are demanding or they want to do a blood transfusion for him, but then his blood group is not there. And so somebody has to donate blood. And my mother is not his type. And the only type, I don't know what happened, because really I want to believe in the family again, there had to be somebody they were sharing blood. So there was no donor, and the only donor that came up was my auntie. And my auntie then was breastfeeding. She was months old post-delivery. And she was like, I'm willing to do this for my brother as long as he survives. Auntie Anne, thank you so much for saving your brother, who is my father. So the doctors are hesitant. Initially they refuse her. They tell her, no, it cannot happen because remember you have just lost blood in some months now, and here again you want to transfuse, so it won't be possible. But then this girl insisted, and they gave in, and she gave out her blood, and my father was transfused. In that span, they were waiting for, it was like first aid. They were waiting for this transfusion so that he could be referred to Kakamega Hospital. Then it was not as big as this, but it was, of course, it is the biggest hospital in Kakamega, then Western. So yeah, he's eventually transferred to Kakamega Hospital. And remember, my mother has left a sick child back home. And in fact, not sick, but sickly. She had never known what was ailing that girl. But then thank God she became better, even though the condition is still there to this moment. Now, she cannot leave the sick child to go take care of her husband in the hospital. But then that time, my grandmother comes and she tells her that I'll be going to Kakamega to see my son. So is there anything you want me to take to him? And my mother says, yeah, in fact, thank you so much because you will have helped me. There is no way, I was juggling between this sick child of mine and, going to see him. So my mother decides that she says she goes in and brings out the little money she had, because back in Kakamega, they had stated that he needs to be operated on. And to this day, that the cutting affected his eyes. My father, when darkness just sets in, if he has not arrived, we literally call him and ask, Daddy, where are you? Because if we don't do that, actually we won't find him because he will lose the direction. I remember one time we had gone to, him and I, we had gone to do some shopping, evening shopping. And when we were coming back from the shop, we passed by where we used to live then. And beyond that, beyond the place we used to live, there was another shopping center. So I thought, okay, maybe there's something he has just remembered, and so he wants us to go pick there. Only to get the to realize that again we're going past that trading center. So I asked him, Daddy, where are we going? And he's like, okay, of course we are going home. I was like, okay, Dad, we've passed home, so we had to come back. So that is how terrible the accident cost him. In fact, at this stage, with the old age, he's really crying, and we pray God to God that he doesn't go blind. So yeah, in Kakamega, surgeries have to be done on him. So my mother gives my grandmother money, and he tells her to use it in taking care of some of the bills at the hospital, and maybe, finding something that the patient wants. Little did my mother know, and she didn't do that once. My mother says it was her mother-in-law's duty, or my grandmother decided upon herself that she's going to shoulder that. So every time she was making visits to Kakamega Hospital. Now, I'll tell you how my mother came to realize that in all these visits and all the cash that she had given my grandmother, none reached my father, and my father never saw the mother for the good time he was in the hospital, close to months. But then every time she would come and my mother is like, how is he doing? She would be like, yeah, he's doing fine. The doctors have said this and that. She would always have a report. So if you told me that, or if really you are told that, you will believe that he's doing okay. And those times it is not like this era, so there were no phones to confirm all that you are being given or told. Now, my grandfather, as I told you earlier, he was on his deathbed. And when he learns that the son is fighting for his life, he decides to call his firstborn now, the firstborn son of my other grandmother. In our previous episode, I had told you that my grandfather was polygamous. So he calls the first son of his first wife, and he tells him, by that time, this was the only stable guy in the family. So he calls him and he tells him that your brother is in hospital, and seemingly I won't make it. So he tells him, even when I'm gone, ensure that you take care of your brother and ensure that he is out of the condition he is in. Sad enough, seemingly those people who are about to die, they see it. So he dies in that moment. And really, my uncle listened to the father, and he went to the hospital, attended to my father. In fact, my father tells us this, that when he saw the brother, he felt like he had seen a ghost, because for the months he had been there, nobody had attended or had visited him, to the point the doctors and those who were there felt like he has no family. And so the caregivers of other patients around him could also extend their care, including their food stuff to him. So yes, the brother came, attended to him, and don't mind, those are baboons. We live next to the forest, so sometimes they do visit. So my father eventually comes home, and as they are coming home, the father was already dead. Though the brother didn't reveal it to him then while still in the hospital. He revealed to him later. What I'm not sure is whether he came home to a green grave, to a fresh grave, or he buried the father. Now, when he gets home, that's when my mother learns that there is no trip or visit my grandmother made to the hospital. Guys, you can imagine your own son fighting for his life, and you fail to attend or to visit him. And as if it is not enough, you take it as an avenue to extortion money from his miserable wife, who is not financially okay, who has a sick child, and now she's worried that she might lose the husband. Who does that? Which mother does that? So remember earlier on, I told you that when she received the news that the son was at the verge of dying, she celebrated and thanked her God that eventually God is answering her prayers. I don't know what prayers are those that she makes against the son, that she wishes that he dies at one point. So this is the kind of a mother I'm talking about. A mother that wishes her son dies. It has made me wondering, why has she never poisoned him to this point? Because this, as things stand, this is somebody that has wanted to really get rid of the son. Huh? Because who does that? Who celebrates the death of their son? It reminds me, I lost one of my uncles, one that is a step brother to my father. And my grandmother was heard saying the same slogan, that one has already gone, I'm remaining with the, okay, and there is one remaining. And the one remaining is or was my father. By that time, my father was sickly. So again, he's somebody who we could not, we see him right now and we thank God, because at one point, really, in life, that's a story for another time, we felt like now we are losing him. So it was within that moment that she was heard saying, yes, my God has answered my prayers, one has left, there is still one remaining. So, my dear ones, again, I ask, which biological mother behaves as my grandmother? Which biological mother celebrates the who's of the son? Which biological mother does not care the worries of their child? In any case, they derive pleasure and satisfaction rather, in the worries. Which mother? Guys, at times I look at my father and feel like crying on his behalf, because what really he has been through in the hands of the mother, you might think this is a stepmother, when he has a stepmother that is so nice. So at times you ask yourself, were these mothers swapped at one point? Could it be that he is the son of my step-grandmother and not this grandmother, as it were? Anyway, as we ask ourselves all those questions, I want to ask you to leave a comment below as well regarding your experiences as far as the people we love are concerned. Until next time,